Israel Keyes himself claims that he did not start killing until after he left the military, and the FBI says that there is no evidence to support that Israel Keyes committed a murder before 2001. Despite this, there have been many cases connected to Israel Keyes based on the timeline and his proximity to those victims. A 12-year-old girl named Julie Harris went missing on March 3rd, 1996. Israel was just 17 years old at the time. Her death has been connected to Keyes because the families apparently knew each other, though Harris lived in the town of Colville and not on the mountain. Julie was a Caucasian girl standing about 5'1" and was about 115 pounds. She had bluish hazel eyes and sandy blonde hair. Julie was known as a funny kid and a bit of a prankster who loved to read comics and mystery books. She was a double amputee and had prosthetic feet and braces so that she could walk. And she got really into the Special Olympics and won a gold medal in downhill skiing, which she was very proud of. On the morning she disappeared, Julie was getting ready to go to church and had on a black and pink striped sweater. She left the house to walk alone and never made it to services. The Stevens County Sheriff's Office had nothing, and Julie's mother, Sherry, who was out of town when her daughter went missing, was beside herself. She said that they weren't doing enough, and she started putting up missing persons flyers everywhere that said, "Please help," in all caps with a picture of her daughter, Julie. Julie was born with a blood disorder that left her with scars and skin grafts. She had to get prosthetic feet and braces to help her walk from a young age. And her mother said that she was often angry about this and very insecure about her scars. She felt like an outsider. The Colville police said that Julie was seen with a man in a trench coat, and many believe that this man may have been Israel Keyes. No leads emerged until April, weeks after Julie's disappearance, when her prosthetics and purse were found in the Colville River near to where it flows into Lake Roosevelt at Kettle Falls. And that is when this case went from a kidnapping to a suspected homicide. There have been speculations that Sherry's live-in boyfriend, Don Sachs, had something to do with Julie's disappearance. Apparently, she was home alone with Dawn. She was supposed to be with her mother and brother at a competition, but because she didn't keep her grades up, she was not allowed to go. Julie was described as being volatile. Apparently, she seemed angry that she didn't fit in with other kids, and Dawn claimed that when he tried to get her to do her homework the night before she went missing, she blew up and told him to go to hell. Dawn said that she was willing to do things that were not healthy in order to try to be like the other girls. And her grades were slipping and she was increasingly unhappy. Sherry claimed that the police were trying to frame Dawn, and she actually stood by him through all of it. Dawn doesn't really have much of an alibi though. He claims that on the morning she went missing, he left early to go fishing and Julie was still in bed. And when he returned home later, she was gone. A family friend told the Spokane Review that Julie was a sweet kid who was quick to make people laugh, but that she was also stubborn. Julie's grandmother set up a $500 reward for anyone with information on the whereabouts of her missing granddaughter. About 6 months later, Sherry was at a park and she had an emotional breakdown. She fell to her knees crying and screaming. She was in such distress that she had to be hospitalized, and there was still no word about her daughter. In September of 1996, Keyes began a courtship with a young woman, and according to the FBI files, this may have been Kelly Harris's stepdaughter. Apparently, he, quote, visited her house a few times, but they primarily wrote letters to one another, even though they were living in the same town. She described their relationship as being on again, off again. In the winter of 1996, the Keyes family officially left Colville, Washington, and moved to Oregon, but Keyes stayed behind. His girlfriend said that his parents seemed nice until they decided to move, and then became very protective because they did not want any of their older children to stay behind in Colville. She also said that Keys' father was ill, so they relied on Keys to support the family and needed him to move with them. Israel was 18 years old now, and he had a girlfriend, and he didn't want to leave her. He wanted to stay with her, but his parents were very religious and seemingly didn't want him to have a girlfriend and wanted him to move with them so he could help support the family. Keys decided to stay behind and work so that he could make extra money. Kelly Harris, the man who helped to build the meeting place, hired Keys on as part of a construction crew, and that is how he got his start in construction. One friend of Keys said that he drove a beat-up Chevy or Ford pickup truck. The truck was very memorable because it was yellow, and Keys had built a homemade wooden roof rack on the back. The truck was always out of gas and never had good tires. His parents, quote, tried to prevent him from buying new tires because they were so poor and needed the money. Eventually, Keys bought new tires and later took the truck with him to Oregon when he moved. This is a redacted picture from the FBI files, and it is labeled Passover Feast, May 1996, and the truck in the picture is Israel's truck. And that is him in the photo with a number of friends, presumably in front of the meeting place. Meanwhile, in Oregon, John and Heidi and their whole family were living in a trailer outside of a warehouse. They stayed with and worked for the Stelzer family at their co-op health food warehouse in the town of Duffer. The Stelzer family was known for their philanthropy, and they helped to provide for the Keys family, who were struggling financially. The Keys liked the Stelzer family, who had a wholesome approach to farming. In the 1970s, they broke away from using pesticides and herbicides for farming. Their land was chemically dependent, and it took them some time to heal, but once they went all natural, their business thrived. The Keys worked for their family while they saved up enough money to purchase properties and flip houses. That was their ultimate plan to make money. Saturday, April 26th, 1997, some children were playing in a wooded area about 6 miles southwest of Colville and discovered some unburied skeletal remains. A friend of Sherry Harris broke the news to her, after which Sherry went directly to the police department, and she said, quote, "I went to the police station and they said, 'Yeah, what do you know?'" She was very unhappy with the way that her daughter's case had been handled. On Saturday, May 10th, the Kettle Falls Assembly of God Church held a memorial service for Julie Harris. Years later, Sherry said that she remembered Israel Keys being at a house that Julie used to go to, and said that she had a really icky feeling about him. It is unclear if the house she's referring to was the meeting place or someone else's residence, but she remembers seeing Israel Keys in the neighborhood. And a witness came forward and said that they remembered seeing Julie walking down Main Street with a very tall, thin man in a trench coat, and Israel was a little over 6 feet by the time he was 16 years old. Julie's best friend also came forward and said that she saw Julie and Israel talking at a local swimming pool, and that she believes Julie actually gave him her phone number and home address.
When you were living in Colville, do you remember the case where Julie Harris, she was a double amputee, went missing? And they've got a suspect in the case, so we're not trying to, talk to you about you being involved in that. But
96?
Yeah, she lived, I think, pretty close to you, and she went missing. And
I do remember hearing about that.
And
she was young, I think, like 11 or 12.
I remember the name. I don't remember the details of the story. I remember that it seems like it was a pretty big deal. It was in local news and stuff, and I was working construction at the time, so I would hear stuff. But I never took a personal interest in it.
Okay.
It was kind of one of those passing interest kind of things.
Okay.
Sounds like it was pretty big news, so just kind of didn't know if that had any impact
That's
on you.
That's probably why I remember it. But it was. I don't remember enough of the details to know. my thoughts were at the time.
Okay.